Hello, and welcome to the Cultivating Confidence podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Grams. I am a life coach who specializes in anxiety, health, and human design. And I also happen to be a functional medicine pharmacist. This podcast is a compilation of conversations that I've had with clients and colleagues. So listen in as we explore the mind, body, and soul's confidence in its many forms.
Recording now as I finish my last
We're doing the thing again where we're talking too much before we hit record. That's all right. But what you were talking about was surrendering when things just pile up, and it's basically the universe saying, like, you need to not.
Right. And we know, our bodies know what we need better than we do. And isn't it crazy, how it happens, when stress accumulates or like illness comes in? It's just our body telling us, no, you must stop and rest. So my example was the other day, after a stressful evening, bringing my puppy to the ER and getting home late, no sleep and stress and this tension. There's just been a lot happening, a lot of action, a lot of good stress, I'd say. So I didn't even recognize it, even in how I handled the situation with my puppy, which was a surprise and it was startling and it completely changed our whole evening. I thought I handled it really well. I didn't freak out too much, and we drove there, we got there, I trusted he was going to be okay, and it all went fine. But it's interesting how the next day, I wake up with this migraine where perhaps, I don't know, maybe the universe was also telling me, like, okay, that's great that you took care of your puppy and you're so quick to like take care of everything else, but how quick are you to take care of yourself? Yeah. And to surrender to that.
Right.
Especially as people, in this world where we're like, hurry up, get it done. It should have been done yesterday. It's hard for us to stop and like give ourselves time to rest. I was actually just talking about this with a client this morning, where it's so common to tell ourselves, oh, once I solve all these problems, once I do all these things on my list, then I'll rest.
Yeah.
I'll be able to relax once all of this is done.
Yeah.
But sometimes the universe interjects and says, no, you cannot get that done until you rest first.
Yeah. Well, and rest is such a regenerative part of life. Like, please stop using rest as a reward. Like, please stop. We need rest in order to, in order to be more productive throughout the day. And like, this really taps into human design for me, because my design is that I need more rest in order to be more productive. I work in sprints, and then I need to, like, I'm a sprinter, not in the literal sense, but in the energetic sense. I'm terrible at sprinting. Anyway.
Side note.
But we're not all meant to just go. Many of us are meant to literally build rest into our day and build our day around it. And if we don't, like, when I work, 8-hour, 10-hour shifts, Monday, Tuesday, I'm kind of dead on Wednesday, because it's all that effort that I put into, my brain power essentially, and physically moving around at work. When I come home to do my own stuff, it's like, nope, you remember how you didn't rest the last couple of days? And then and then you come home and you have a meeting, or, you're doing stuff. Like, as an entrepreneur, you have to do more some days than others. And it's just like, no, you actually have to rest. Stop using your lunch breaks for meetings. Stop using your, whatever, like, just sit and eat and rest.
Exactly. Even, perhaps it's more of an option, for those that are still working from home, or if you do own your own business, like, especially entrepreneurs, right? Business owners, if you have control of your schedule. But how many of us still let the schedule control us? And how hard it is to carve in times of rest. Like you said, it's not a reward, it's a requirement. Rest needs to come first before we can really show up fully to accomplish all of those tasks on our list.
Yeah.
And we're all human too. It's easy to get swept into it. Maybe even also when you've got momentum building and you've been doing a lot of action and a lot of stuff is happening, you've got a lot of great movement forward. Letting yourself rest in those times, it can be even more tough. Like, oh my gosh, but I'm on this roll and I want to keep getting this done. Well, it'll keep rolling until you hit a wall. And, the universe forces you to rest. Like it happened to me yesterday. I'd love to think, I've been under a lot of positive stress lately and it's been feeling really good. But funny that my body came through like, oh, but you've been noticing your neck's been getting really tight and feeling a little more tension up here. And have you been spending enough time on the yoga mat in the morning, or am I rushing into all of the tasks and the calls of the day? Nope. Today you are going to lay all day and do nothing.
Yeah.
And finally, it took until like later in the afternoon, gosh, even after throwing up and just being so exhausted, where I could finally lay there and like appreciate, wow, okay, I need this today. And I trust fully that by resting today, like the universe clearly needed it to happen, that I don't accomplish anything today, but just be with myself, to rest, to let myself sleep, to let myself heal now so that I could jump back into the day today. And I feel great.
Right.
That's another thing I've been talking about with clients too, is, with the pandemic, COVID and, flu season and the colds and all of that. I've had so many clients that, especially through this flu season and different like sinus infections and things, they were still forcing themselves through the motions. I have a client that was sick for like a month because she was resisting so hard, letting herself just stop and rest for a few days. Oh, but I feel okay to still keep doing things.
Stop.
No. Give yourself that time, right? Like maybe it just takes one full day, maybe 2, maybe 3. But if you give yourself those full days of rest, you can jump right back into action feeling so much more fresh, more clear, more inspired. Yeah, to be more productive. Exactly. Yeah. Versus, oh, but I can still function, so I'm just going to drag myself through all of this. And then it takes longer. Right. It's harder. You're not giving 100% because you don't feel 100%. Is it really worth it just to say you were still productive today?
Right. And I think we're so conditioned to believe that, if we feel good enough, then full power is what's necessary, right? Like I don't want to get into the capitalist, argument or anything like that, but that's what we're supposed to do. If you're feeling good enough, you go to work, you work all day, and then you go home, right? And that's what we're trained to do, even when we're on our own, until we do that deconditioning and understand that that's not really how it works necessarily. Some days, yeah. And like for me, now that I'm nearing the end of switching everything over to a new platform, I know at first I was very excited. I was up, doing all the things, and it very enthusiastically, I even got coaching. I was like, I'm feeling really good about it right now. I'm feeling good about the move. I'm feeling good about everything. And I know this isn't going to last. So I'm going to ride it while I can. And then, lo and behold, a week or 2 later, I got coaching on how terrible I was feeling and like how like I was over it and I just wanted it to be done. And like all of the negative doom thoughts came in, and it was like, you know what? I 100% expected it. And then when it came time for me to feel the negative 50%, it was like, oh yeah, I forgot that this sucks so bad.
Yeah. And that's such as life.
Yeah.
The ups and downs. And it's not that our goal is ever to like reach the state that we're only up at this high vibe level. We have to, and I know we've talked about this on our discussions before, that we have to embrace the lows too. That us, even as coaches, especially as coaches, we must recognize that we're not going to have it all together and feel great and perfect every day.
Yeah.
And that was what I really noticed yesterday, and like embracing and accepting that I need to rest. As much as it sucked, I knew I needed it and I wasn't going to fight it like, my younger self would have done. Gosh, especially when I was living in the corporate world as a young single mom, I like could not get sick. There's too much to do. Oh my gosh, I have too much responsibility. I have to keep going. I can't. Like I resisted being sick like the plague, and then I would get sick. Or gosh, I had several like back injuries thrown up my back where it would take me out. The point, like I couldn't even walk. Like how is that for serving from the universe? Like, oh, you think you're gonna keep going when you're sick? We're gonna take you out so you cannot move. Like embrace it. It took too many of those situations for me to really learn and embrace, okay, I'm not feeling it today. I'm going to accept, listen to my body, give myself the love and nurturing that I want so much to give to other people. We got to remember we got to take care of ourselves first before we can truly take care of others. I know we've all heard the analogy before. If you've ever ridden a plane, you better put that mask on you first, before you put the oxygen mask on others. Otherwise, if you don't put it on first, if you're not sustained, if you're not getting oxygen, what good are you to help anybody else?
Yeah.
And just remembering that, like, we must be selfish to listen to our bodies in that moment, to give ourselves what we need, give ourselves what we want to give to others, but we got to give it to us first.
Yeah. The advice that we would give to others, like, oh, I'm not feeling great today. All right, well, do a little bit less. Turn that right back on yourself.
Yeah. I love that too, right? That comparison of like, what would you tell your best friend in this situation? Yeah. What advice would you give to your best friend? And when you turn that to yourself, giving yourself that same advice, taking a moment like, isn't that interesting that it seems so obvious what advice I'd give to my best friend? Of course, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for us to give that back to ourselves? Even just saying like being selfish, the word selfish has been a hot topic with clients lately too.
Yeah.
Because it's got some icky connotations with it.
It does, and it absolutely shouldn't. Yeah, no, I talk to my clients all the time about being selfish and how selfish is the way to get things done in your life, because you have to be selfish. You have to make sure that you are operating from a full tank before you start giving to everybody else. Because if you're running on E, you're not giving your best self. You're not giving from a place of abundance or even sufficiency. You're giving from scarcity of everybody else needs more than me, and I am not worth the effort that it takes. Like, you teach people how to treat you. And if you're treating yourself like shit, you can't expect anybody else to treat you better than that. They're just going to keep using you because you're using you to help other people, right? Like, stop abusing your own system, stop abusing your own self in order to make other people happy or make people think differently of you, right? It's manipulation and it's terrible. And like, just say no. And like, wouldn't you rather be I was talking to somebody recently about, would you rather your friend be honest with you and tell you that they don't want to go somewhere, even if you want them to go? Or would you rather them begrudgingly say yes and have a terrible time the whole time, right? Like, just like being a good friend doesn't mean always going, right? Always doing the thing. It means being honest and being honest with yourself first, right?
Yes, amen to that. And like all of the things that you just said, where of course we got to fuel ourselves up, and like learning to say no to like save, we are the protectors of our own energy, of how we are the only ones that can choose how we spend our time and energy. And if we're not giving enough of that to ourselves, we can't possibly be giving our best to others. And it's interesting, right? It is kind of manipulation, right? How you said, like, and that I feel like we could just highlight, this first few phrases that you just said, like, oh my gosh, that must have hit home for so many people, because I felt it string some chords for me of thinking that we need to do all of these things to serve other people. But isn't that really is kind of a form of manipulation, right? We want to please people so much and do all of these things for them so they see us in a certain way. But really, we have no control of anyone else's opinions of us. Who are we?
Unless we falsely try to manipulate them by acting as though we are someone who we're not. And it's a mask that so many people wear, and it's people pleasing. Like, people pleasing is manipulation, if you really look at it, right? It's not just helping to make sure everybody's happy. It's literally abusing yourself and pretending you're not who you are.
Yeah. In order, right, to manipulate the way people feel about you.
Yeah.
But really, the best thing we can do is be our true, authentic selves. I mean, don't you hear it and you see it all the time of these like wildly successful people? I'd say all of them really are so dedicated to themselves, so selfish to putting themselves first. They don't really give a shit what anybody else thinks of them.
Yeah.
Because they love themselves so much. And that's what's really so attractive to everyone else.
Right.
When you see someone who's really successful and really confident, I mean, truly, that's because they are selfish and giving themselves what they need.
Right.
And when you get to that state of like truly loving yourself and always putting yourself first, you just glow differently, glowing from the inside out in a whole different way. And that is so attractive to other people, because that's really what we're all seeking.
Yeah.
But we're blinded, we're all like, man, the manipulation, especially, gosh, with media, social media these days. And, people assume, oh, what we're seeing, all these highlights of people, that they just have this perfect life. And, oh, it looks like, oh, they're so successful because they're giving and doing all of these things. But really, the people that are truly the most successful are the ones that are willing to put themselves first and believe in themselves.
Yeah.
You have to truly believe in yourself, in order to manifest, all these great things. But think of how many people also too think selfishness is bad. They must also be giving to all these other people. I'm not worthy of receiving and having that much. I mean, we are our own worst critic and our own biggest block.
Yeah. And we're conditioned that way. So it's not anybody's fault that this is what society's standards are, right? There, for some reason, as you were talking, a video that I was watching of Jim Carrey giving an interview for something recently. I used to like his movies, like The Mask and all the things or whatever, but he was when he would do interviews and stuff, he was still in character. And he like talks now about playing the character of Jim Carrey and like really how he was wearing a mask the entire time, like his rise to fame or whatever. Like, yes, he did great things, but he wasn't being authentic to himself fully. He was putting on a show for everybody else. And then he went into this such a deep depression that he had to stop because like, this isn't me. And now, I mean, I haven't sought out many of his videos, but some of them come up and he's doing art. He's, talking about mental health and doing all these things that I really quite admire him a lot more now, because when I saw him on talk shows and he's, doing crazy things to the audience members, I'm like, I feel like that's crossing lines. And I hope that that was a plant in the audience because this is not okay. But like, looking at what he's talking about now and the experience that he was having through his rise and through his level of fame, like he was still playing this role for everybody always. And he was never allowed to be himself.
And as the funny guy, right? The wild, crazy, funny guy. And like, we all, as all humans, we have a full range of emotions that we go through all the time. But can you imagine being put up on this pedestal, being in the high, in highlight, in Hollywood and all of that, and like is seen portrayed as this like funny, crazy person, and having to play that role all the time, because at that, especially the height of his career as this like hilarious, comedian and actor,
right?
God forbid he shows up in a bad mood. God forbid, he admits how depressed he actually is. Because what the heck? He's supposed to be the funny guy that makes everybody else happy.
Right. Well, and I feel like comedians in general are the ones who are masking the most a lot of the time.
Isn't that interesting?
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
Look at Robin Williams.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's such, what an eye opener. I couldn't imagine being, in the spotlight like that and being expected to be, this the funny one. You've always got to be funny and make other people smile and laugh. Yeah. How much do you think, he was putting himself out there, hiding his real pain on the inside because he felt so obligated to give to others, and keep portraying, this positive, funny, kind of role model for others. And now seeing, how depressed he was, and now he's not here anymore, gosh, we can't live our lives that way.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting too, when you see this happen to celebrities, right? We're all aware of it because they are celebrities, they're in the spotlight, but gosh, to think, we were raised watching his movies and, think of him as an idol of being, this lighthearted, funny, happy person. And to suddenly realize like what he was actually really going through to the point he took his own life. Isn't that an eye opener of the importance of taking care of yourself and being selfish, being true to you?
Yeah.
So that you can show up authentically. Gosh, we all need to be able to express our emotions, no matter it's up or down. We cannot marry or force ourselves to maintain one particular positive emotion at all times. It is just not possible.
Not possible at all. And I feel like going back to the celebrity thing and how we see, I feel like when I see a celebrity who has been wearing this mask for so long, when I see that vulnerable side, that's what really makes me respect them. And that's what really makes me like feel more connected to them, is because they're being vulnerable and real with people instead of just being this character all the time. Like, imagine if we could apply that to our own lives on the smaller scales that are, I mean, not that our lives are living in small scale, but like in comparison of the audience that we have, like what if we take off our mask and show our vulnerability and take care of ourselves and rest when we need to, and look how many more people would genuinely connect with us if we're able to do that, instead of playing this role and being this, figure, or, anything like that, like pretending that life is amazing and positive vibes only, right? Like, no.
Right. And even, like trying to maintain this, if you're known, actually, I mean, man, I can relate to that too, because I felt like I've had to wear this mask of positivity, of eternal positivity. I've been told by many people, you're like the most optimistic person I know. You're so happy and healthy and all the things. And I felt like I had to wear that mask for a long time. And especially, as a yoga teacher, showing up to classes and stuff. And it took me a while to finally like, no, this must come off.
Yeah.
I am not happy all the time. I'm human, just like everybody else.
Yep.
And that's what we need to share with others. As otherwise, celebrities, no matter who you are, if we're just constantly only willing to share, this more positive side of ourselves, then it's showing to other people, that that's even possible. Oh, well, they're happy all the time. So what am I doing
wrong? Right.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You're being real, right? By embracing the full range of emotions. I was even thinking yesterday, like, dang, I wish I would have taken a selfie or something while I was laying miserably, like hanging over the bed over a garbage can, like just to talk about it, right? Like, look, this is real life. You got to embrace these moments. I'll try to come up with something to post and share about that. We'll have some kind of discussion. I don't have any pictures to show because you know what? My head hurts so dang bad. I couldn't even look at my phone all day.
Yeah.
So embracing those moments too, setting the phone down. Like, I'm not going to keep up with social media or any of the things, or my email or any of that today, because I need to put me first.
Yeah.
And take care of me first.
Yeah.
And just remembering too, I feel like it's so, I'm sure we've all heard it a million times. You said it earlier in this call, like, what advice would you give to your best friend? Can we remember to turn that around on ourselves? Can we practice treating ourselves like our own best friend? As maybe as uncomfortable as that sounds at first, oh my gosh, oh my God, I can't, that's so selfish. No, we're going to redefine selfishness and remember our worthiness, right? Man, let's ditch, all the icky feelings about selfishness and remember how worthy we are. I feel like worthiness is another almost taboo word too that makes people really uncomfortable, that just assume like, oh, I'm not worthy of, we're comparing, or we're talking about celebrities, right? And them being in the spotlight and all this stuff they went through on their claim to fame. And we think, oh my gosh, I'm so much smaller than that, and that, whatever, we can so easily knock ourselves down that like, I'm unworthy of ever being in a place like that. No. No. What we have in common with like any celebrity, any, wildly successful person, or like the richest people on earth, whatever, none of them are different from us.
Yeah.
We are all human. All human. And no matter where you live, what your environment is like, what color your skin is, what, wherever you're coming from, we are all human and we all experience the same range of emotions. And no one is free from that, right? There are no exceptions. Every single one of us goes through these things. We may not see it all on others, but I love how you said it, Nicole. Like, are we willing to take the mask off?
Yeah.
And just truly be ourselves and honor ourselves, how we're feeling in the moment. Giving ourselves what we need in the moment, not delaying it like, oh, I'll rest later once I achieve all of these things first. What if that time never comes?
Right.
The to-do list is never going to stop. It'll keep growing.
Yeah.
Every time you check something off, you can add 3 more things. Always. Always. So when are you going to put self-care at the top?
Yeah.
When are you going to put rest at the top?
We're just rebranding selfishness today. And to be clear, selfishness, the negative connotation of selfishness often comes when we slip into the realm of like putting ourselves first to the detriment of other people. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about like, oh, well, that's a mild inconvenience for me. I'm never going to help you. Like I have to put myself first, right? Like, that's not where we're going from. We're going from like, I feel so good. I want to help other people. And that's the selfishness that I want to instill in all of my clients and myself and everyone around me. Because, like, when we are selfish, when we do put ourselves first and make sure that we feel good, we're so much more capable of giving to other people and being the mom, sister, friend, spouse that we want to be, instead of pretending that we have to be some way and building resentment with ourselves and everybody else around us, right? Like, we're more able to show up for ourselves and for other people.
I love how you said that of, I feel so good that I want to help others.
Yeah.
That's the important piece right there. Because I'm sure anyone listening can feel that difference, when, and have experienced it, when you feel really drained and tired, you're not feeling your best, but, oh, I said I would show up to this function today. I'm going to volunteer or do whatever. And it when you show up and you almost resent it because you're not feeling your best.
Yeah.
Maybe you squeeze too much in your schedule that day and you don't actually have time for it, but, oh, I'm obligated to go. I have to go because I said I would.
Right. And don't ever do anything out of obligation again. Like, stop with the obligation.
How much can you give? Because then you're tired, you're drained, your mind's not all there, you're not showing up 100%, then what are you really giving?
Right.
Just to be able to say you showed up because you said you would?
Yeah.
What if you said no, took that time to rest, and you could show up the next day somewhere else and feel that much better, where it actually feels good to give? But as much as you want to give, gosh, you have to give that to yourself. I think we said that earlier too, is how much all the love, the support that you want to give to your loved ones, that has to come to you first. You have to fill your own cup in order for you to be able to pour it over to anyone else. So embracing, don't let it come to the time where, your body, where the universe forces you to stop. Although, I mean, it's a beautiful opportunity too, like I experienced yesterday with that migraine. When these things happen, just becoming more aware of the magic behind that happening, instead of it being, oh my gosh, I'm sick, this is terrible, I can't get anything done. Oh, I guess this is just my sign. I need to slow down a little bit more.
Right.
I need to nurture myself today. I guess I haven't been nurturing myself enough lately, because it is so easy to get swept up in your schedule that you don't even realize you haven't been taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try to overschedule ourselves and do. Like, we're not prioritizing the things that we actually think are important. And when we put everything in our schedule and everything's important, then nothing is important and we get burnt out. But like, really, I mean, one of the coaches that is my inspiration for most things, one of them talks about scheduling out and putting your rest time, putting your meal times, putting your play time in your schedule first. Like, when do you want to play? And then build everything around that, because like, you're going to be so much more productive. Like, if you have 3 hours to get a task done, are you going to be better if you have been rested and, rejuvenated before you set to work on that 3-hour long task, right? Like, you might get it done in an hour and a half instead of 3 hours. But I mean, if you're anything like me, if you sit there and you try to do stuff, then you're distracted, then Facebook, then, oh, well, I got to play this game. I forgot to play this game, like Wordle or something.
Right. It's so easy to go down that rabbit hole. Oh my gosh, of distractions. And again, that's just another sign of like, oh, what do I need to truly nurture myself if I'm searching for these external distractions right now? Because I don't really even want to face the task at hand.
Build them into your day on purpose. And then you don't feel guilty about, oh, I just spent half an hour scrolling on Facebook. Like, no, I'm going to spend 20 minutes right now on social media doing whatever I want. And then I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And I'm going to get my fix. And then I'm going to come back and be better than ever. Right. Like there are experts who talk about how you should take a break and get up and walk around like every 60 to 90 minutes. And how many of us are actually doing that?
No, that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge. Even, I mean, gosh, I know many listening might be like, oh, well, I work, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever hours, and I don't have the opportunity to take these breaks or put myself, excuse me, put myself first every day. Doing just that in the workplace okay, I'll finish this task, take a walk, step outside. It could just take a couple of minutes to step outside, take a few deep breaths in the fresh air, something to just walk away, get your eyes off the screen or whatever you're working on. And to
it could even literally be just staring at the ceiling for a minute.
Right? Closing your eyes, just breathing for a few minutes. Give yourself a break more often. Yeah. And you may be surprised by how much more productive you can be in less time by taking more time to nurture yourself.
Right.
It's amazing. I'm blown away by how well that works every time. Oh my gosh. And I feel like I'm building that muscle, right? It's getting easier and easier. Like, nope, now I've got to get my yoga in the morning. And even that doesn't have to be an hour-long practice of doing all the things, every single pose, oh my gosh, just 5 minutes of a little gentle movement and stretching in the morning can be, maybe that's all I have time for in the morning, but just taking that little bit of time for me is huge. Yeah. And maybe you can't fit it in the morning. I mean, that's another thing too, is just being flexible, because some days, whatever, maybe you needed to sleep in a little bit more. Maybe you couldn't get your morning routine in because you needed a little more rest. That's okay. It can fit in somewhere else in your day. Can we be more flexible with ourselves? More flexible and forgiving. And just listen. It really comes down to just listening inside. What is my body needing right now? What does my heart really want to do right now? Yeah. That's been a thing I've been working on a lot with my clients too. Following your heart over your head in all cases. If you feel your head's racing, oh my gosh, I've got this whole to-do list. I need to do all these things before I can rest, but something is nagging me about it, right? Something feels icky. I'm procrastinating. I don't feel like doing it. It's such a pain in the butt. What does your heart want to do right now? Do you want to take a break? Go take a nice hot shower? Yeah. Do you just want to sit and read or relax, close your eyes for a minute? What if you did that for 10, 20 minutes first? Yeah. How you look at your to-do list after that, after giving that to yourself, is so much more re-energizing than I think many people can even believe, because they don't do it. They haven't done it in so long. Yeah. And for anybody listening who doesn't really know what that means, to listen to your heart versus your head, because sometimes it's a little tricky at first. A question that I have asked clients and asked myself now is, if I loved myself so much right now, what would I do? And again, loving yourself isn't necessarily just eating all the snacks and running around and, going crazy. If you look at it as if you're raising a child, right? You love them, so you make them brush their teeth. You love them, so you make them go to bed on time. You love them, so they have to eat their dinner and eat their vegetables, right? And that doesn't mean that there's no playtime, there's no snacks, there's no chocolate, there's no TV, right? But if I loved myself so much right now, what would I be doing? What would I tell myself to do? And sometimes it is watch Netflix. Sometimes it is, I need a break. Give yourself permission. Yeah. What did we say? Being flexible with ourselves, forgiving. Give yourself permission to be selfish. Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to end this. How you just said, if I loved myself so much, what would I do right now? Yeah. So I say we leave it with that. Anyone listening right now, if you love yourself so, so much, what do you want to do? What would you do? And let's challenge you. Go do that right now. Give yourself permission to do that first before. And starting with that, if I loved myself, because not a lot of people believe that they love themselves. It's practice. Unfortunately. But if you did,
what would you do?
Right. It takes some pressure off, right? Oh, if I did, doesn't mean I have to master all of that right now. What if? Let's be curious. What if I love myself so much, I let myself do whatever the heck I truly want to do right now?
Yeah.
Give yourself permission, my friends. And if you need any support in doing that, contact Nicole and I anytime you'd like to. Feel free to leave your comments. If you go and take care of yourself, go be selfish today. We'd love to hear about it, to write about it in the comments, or reach out to us anytime. And until next time, we'll be back with more authentic, spontaneous discussions, food for thought.
Yes, I love it.
I know I love bouncing ideas off of each other and just being able to share it with others, because this is real, right? This is the real world. This is real life stuff. We're all humans. We're all in this together. But today's message, go be selfish and just wonder, what if? Let yourself explore that today.
Love it.
All right. Love you guys so much. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. Many of you will be able to take the ideas that you've heard and apply them in your daily life, and that's really all you need. That's amazing. But for those of you who could use a little one-on-one help with how to make these things actually work for you in your real life, please reach out. The link to schedule a consult with me is in the show notes. You don't have to do this alone. See you soon.